What's going on, everyone? Welcome back to the show. So we're going to take a look at some of the polls that I posted the last week. So I posted a lot of different polls and I got some really interesting responses, and I want to share this with you because I think this is a good thing, and I'm going to continue to do more and more of these polls because it really gives me insight on the viewers and how you guys feel about certain issues. So that's what we're going to talk about today. Well, first off, on this channel, we talk about financial news and current events. If that sounds like something interesting to you, please subscribe to the channel and hit that little bell notification. That way you'll get notified anytime we put out a video. And like always, if you see my name and a picture of me in the comment section, make sure you see a check mark next to my name. That check mark signifies that it's me. If you do not see that check mark, it's not me. It's someone trying to impersonate me. Okay, so let's go ahead and go right over to these polls. And I like doing these, as I stated, because it helps me understand where you guys are coming from when it comes to a lot of these different issues. And so the first poll that I want to look at, and that's this one right here. Do you think the U.S. democracy is on the verge of collapse? Now, this was pretty shocking. I didn't think it would get this type of response, at least the margins. I mean, we're looking at 3,500 people participating in the poll, and I appreciate that you guys are really getting into this and participating. Usually I get about 1,000, maybe 1,500, maybe 2,000 on occasion, but if you just drop down, you'll see kind of the history of the video of the polls that I've put out, and I'm starting to get more people participating, which I really appreciate. And if we can continue to do this, I think we will have a good thing, especially during an election year. The plan is some of these different polls, I am going to be writing letters to Congress people and the president and letting them see some of the polls that I put out, so they can see where people are, at least where my audience is when it comes to these issues. So on the verge of collapse, we have 85% of the people said yes. Okay. And that is shocking. And that is very concerning because we, the people, make up a democracy. Okay. So if you have a large group of people that think that democracy is on the verge of collapse, that is not a good sign. Really not a good sign. Okay. And we have 15% of the people that say no, that it's not on the verge of collapse. But this is something I'm going to follow up with a few more polls after this one, just to see kind of how people feel maybe a couple of months down the road, and maybe target it a little bit better as far as this poll, right about certain things. Why do you think we're on the verge of collapse? And in the comment section, let me know if you did participate in this poll or you're seeing it now. Let me know how you feel about it, because this is very concerning, very, very concerning. Okay, let's move to the next poll here. Do you think prescription medication is too expensive? Now, this is 97%. Now, I talked a little bit about this in one of my last videos. 97% of the people say yes, it's definitely too high, too expensive. And then 3% of the people say that no, it's fine the way it is. It's priced right. So when we look at prescription medication, and it's just crazy. And I've always had an issue with this, because the way that I look at this, some of this stuff can save people's lives or allow them to live a better life. And because the pharmaceutical companies know this, they just charge you an enormous amount of money to get this prescription. And then what happens is it goes to the healthcare, whoever your healthcare provider is, and they pay that big bill, and then you pay a portion of it. But in reality, if it was a lot less, then the healthcare companies can charge you a lot less, basically, because they're not paying as much. Just like Medicare, we're talking about Medicare, and we're talking about a situation where every year Medicare, you see a rise in the premiums for Medicare. And so people who are on fixed income are ending up having to pay more and more and more. And part of the argument is that because pharmaceutical companies are charging so much for this prescription medication, they have to find the money somewhere. And so the only way that they can find the money is by charging the people who are receiving Medicare even more. I mean, there was that Alzheimer's medication that was for a year. It's like something like $40,000 for the whole year. They've since reduced it down to 28. I think it's like about 28,000 now for the year. So the prescription, it's gone down, which means the good news in that is that there's a potential in what they're fighting for right now. And you do have some Congress people fighting for this. And even the Health and Human Services Secretary is fighting to get because we saw that rise, right? We saw the rise in Medicare is going to cost more. They're trying to see if they can cut that back down to maybe at least half of what it is now. I think it's something like $20-something more per month. And they're trying to see if they can at least cut it in half, because that medication that they were talking about, this Alzheimer's medication, is now not as expensive. So should that premium go up that much or not? So that's something that they're talking about now. I know I'm going kind of off on a little tangent when it comes to this, but this is one of the things that really needs to be addressed: prescription medication. Okay, there needs to be some type of reform when it comes to that, and that's going to help everyone, not just people on fixed income, but all of us, right? Because at some point we have to get medication, and if medication is cheaper, or I won't say cheaper, less expensive. We want the same quality, but we want a less expensive option. And if we do have less expensive medication, that means that these healthcare providers, they should charge us less per month to have the healthcare coverage, because medications have gone down. So that's something you still have to follow, because what could happen, what we could see is prescription medication goes down. These healthcare companies say, oh, we're not going to, they're not saying anything about should we be dropping the premium, so we're just going to keep the premiums the same. So this is something that we would definitely have to look after, reducing prescription medication, as well as following up with these healthcare agencies and making sure that they're dropping the premiums as well. Okay, let's move on here. Do you approve or disapprove of the way Joe Biden is handling the coronavirus, COVID-19? I should have put President Biden. I don't know why I just put Joe Biden. But anyway, and we have 3,400 people participated in this poll. We have 25% of the people approve. Not very good. 75% of the people disapprove. So the Biden administration, there's a lot that has to be done in this year. I mean, they really are going to have to focus on what the people want and try to get something through. And I'm the way that I see it right now, when it comes down to it, I see that, or at least I think that they're going to have to start doing some type of piecemeal legislation. They're going to have to get something through. If it's the child tax credit, just do the child tax credit on its own. Some of these other things they're talking about, we just talked about the prescription medication reform. Do something like that. Do some things where you can get some type of bipartisan support and get those through. Because if you can't get anything done, if you're trying to go big with this Build Back Better and it doesn't go anywhere, then we're looking at a real bad situation for the midterm. And so you want to at least have, even if Democrats should be looking at this, even if they lose the Senate, they need to at least have enough votes so that 60 vote threshold that we're seeing right now with Republicans, the Republicans still have leverage because of the 60 vote threshold, right? So Democrats need to, they can't lose to a point where they've lost more, they drop below 40 senators, because if they drop below 40 senators, now we have that Republicans can do whatever they want when it comes to the Senate, because then you'll be past that filibuster. So the good news is, when it comes to the Senate, only 1/3 of them are running for re-election. So it would have to be they would have to pretty much lose every seat. The Democrats would, which is highly unlikely. But nonetheless, this is a situation where the Biden administration, they need to make a change. And right now they're talking about shifting. They're talking about we need to pretty much revamp everything. So that whole revamp talk, I'm hoping that they're going to look at Build Back Better and say, it might be good, but it's not good right now. Let's get some of this stuff done that we can do in a bipartisan fashion. And then after that, then we can move forward. Okay, let's go ahead and get back here. Next poll here, which political party is more likely to be in favor of a forced stimulus check? Interesting question here, right? The whole talk of the stimulus checks, and this has always been the case. When it's come to stimulus checks, this has always been the case. We're always been looking at a situation where the Democrats have seemed to want stimulus checks. And I'm talking about from the very beginning. So that first stimulus package with the stimulus checks in it that was passed in 2020, the $1,200 stimulus checks, you had Democrats were all in favor of that. You had a lot of Republicans in favor of that. That first stimulus package with stimulus checks was very popular with Democrats and Republicans as far as legislators. So they passed that. But soon after that, we were looking at another package. They wanted to do another package. And what they did is, I believe it was in May of 2020, they passed a small package that just focused on businesses because the EIDL funding, the PPP program, they needed more money. And so they passed this smaller bill, and they passed it, and it was bipartisan, but Speaker Pelosi wanted a larger package, but she conceded and said, okay, we'll pass this right now, but then we're going to follow this up with a larger package with another round of stimulus checks. Well, what ended up happening is once they got that stimulus package, or at least more funding for businesses, that's when Mitch McConnell, at the time he was the leader in the Senate, he said, you know what, let's hold off, let's pause. And we took a pause. And we took a pause in June, July, August, or I'd say late July. That's when Mitch McConnell started saying, okay, well, let's see what we can do for another package. And then we had it was an election year. Okay, so that was the presidential election. And so as it got closer to the election, I think Speaker Pelosi realized, okay, now is probably not the best time to move forward with a stimulus package because it can really help President Trump at the time. And so I think they were trying to negotiate, but it just didn't pan out. But at that whole time, Democrats, they wanted another stimulus check, and they were talking about monthly payments and all this stuff. But Republicans, they weren't talking about another stimulus check, at least not all of them. I mean, it was kind of going back and forth. And you had President Trump. One minute he was saying that he wasn't really in favor of stimulus checks, and then he was in favor of stimulus checks. He was bouncing back and forth. And long story short, it got down to the end of the year. So we would pass the election, got down to the end of the year, and they put together a stimulus package without stimulus checks. And that was interesting. And so then President Trump came out and said, well, there should be some stimulus checks in there. And so they put in a $600 stimulus check. And then President Trump said, well, let's do $2,000. It should be a $2,000 stimulus check. Now, when he said that, you had a lot of Republicans that did not want to go forward, and they didn't vote for a $2,000 or didn't want to vote for his $2,000 stimulus check. But guess what? Speaker Pelosi, when she heard $2,000 stimulus check, Democrats have been talking about a $2,000 stimulus check for the longest. They were talking about it since May of 2020. And so she was like, yes, let's move forward with that. Nothing happened because Republicans didn't want to move forward with it. And so that's why when President Biden came into office, that was something that he was focused on. Okay, let's get this $1,400 stimulus check. So you received the $600 stimulus check in December of 2020. Now we're in 2021, $1,400 stimulus check that will equal $2,000. That was the whole plan there. So $1,400 stimulus check went out in 2021, and now fast forward, now we're here. And I think it's one of those situations where if Democrats lose, they lose the House and the Senate, then it's going to be game over when it comes to a stimulus check. Right now, even looking at the situation that we're looking at now, we're not seeing any talk of stimulus checks. But I think, and this is just my personal opinion, I think you have a better shot at getting another stimulus check if Democrats are in power than if they're not. So you guys saw it the same way. 87% of you guys said that yeah, Democrats are more likely to like push for another stimulus check, and then we have 13% that say Republicans. Now, I'm even shocked at 13% because Republicans have not talked about a stimulus check since President Trump. So it's been over a year since they've talked about a stimulus check, and we had 3,400 people participate in this poll, if I didn't already say that. Okay, let's move to the last poll here. Do you think Fox, MSNBC, and CNN are using political parties to play the American people against each other to get views? Now, I put this out here because this is one of those interesting things, and let's just look at this, and then I'll talk a little bit more about it. So we had 1,000 people participate in this poll. I just put this out 5 hours ago, and we have 92% of people say yes, so overwhelming amount of people saying yes, and then we have 8% that are saying no. So the reason that I posted that poll is because I was really shocked when I did another poll, and this was maybe a week and a half ago, where I was just asking people pretty much where they get their news from. And a lot of people said online, social media, which is good because you're watching channels like mine, but then it's also bad because I think there's a lot of misinformation online. But when we're looking at these different major news networks, it's pretty interesting because we see it. We know it. We know Fox they lean right. We know that MSNBC leans left. We know that CNN leans left. They're leftish, I'll say. But when it comes down to it, they're doing that because they're playing the political parties, right? So Fox, they know that they have a conservative audience, and so they cater to that conservative audience. MSNBC, they know that they have a more liberal audience, so they cater to that liberal audience. But not only do they cater to the audience, they attack the other networks, right? And they will go back and forth because it's a tug of war. They're trying to pull these different supporters over. And so it's very interesting now. It's very hard to just get the news, just get the information and let people decide how they want to interpret what's out there. Because now, I mean, you have politicians that will not go on Fox, and you have politicians that will not go on MSNBC or CNN, and that's really crazy because we just want the news. And that's, one of the things, it doesn't matter. Like when I talk with you guys, it doesn't matter what political party I'm from. It shouldn't matter what political party I'm from. And I should not be trying to persuade you in either way. Like you should be a Republican or you should be a Democrat. I should just be giving you guys the information that's out there. Now, I might have an opinion about things, and that's fine. I'll give you my opinion, but I'm not telling you should be agreeing with my opinion. And I always say, let me know what you guys think. Let me know what you guys think down below. This is just my opinion. But when we're looking at these major news networks, it's so slanted, it's ridiculous, and we all know how they lean. And certain people will only watch Fox or only watch MSNBC or only watch CNN. So it's gotten really, as a country, we're really divided. We really are. And when you see things like that, how can you get anything done if you have just politicians attacking each other and not coming together to try to help the American people? So that's just how I feel about that. But the polls are in, and I'm going to continue to do a poll, at least one poll a day. So please participate. In the description, I'll go ahead and post a link there so you can follow these different polls, as well as in the comment section. I'll pin a post. So if you go down in the comment section, that first post will be more information. So you can just click on that link and go and participate in these different polls. But right now, we're looking at a situation where they're trying to get this voting rights bill. At least they're going to call it to the floor today. They're debating on it right now, and it's going to fail. They already know that, but they want people on record. They want to know how these different politicians feel about these bills, the two voting rights bills, and have them on record. And we might be surprised. There might be some more people. Some more politicians that come up that we didn't hear about. We're hearing about Senator Manchin, Senator Sinema. Those are the main ones that don't want to move forward when it comes to making changes to the filibuster. But we might get some more insight when it comes to the voting rights bills, because Senator Sinema and Senator Manchin are for the voting rights bill, so they'll be voting for it. But will we have some more senators come out and vote no on this voting rights bill? And mainly they're looking at the Republicans, because if they got the 60 votes, then these voting rights bills can move forward. So if they have some support from Republicans, it can move forward. But we're going to find out exactly who is in favor and who is not in favor. So that's what we'll find out today. I'll put another video out tomorrow, so make sure you guys tune in tomorrow. If you guys have any questions, post them down below. If you like this video, please give me a thumbs up. Please subscribe for more, and I'll talk to you in the next one. Bye.